Okay, welcome to episode 2. What have I done in the meantime? I used some of this, which is like a cavity rust inhibitor, and I put that all through the cavities here. This thing has been in the middle of the Pilbara, so it hasn't seen too much salt. So I figured any rust prevention while I'm building is probably a good thing. You can see I've cut that outdoor cupboard which I was talking about. That'll be the level of the bed, so that's all cool. But I put rust inhibitor all through the cavities down in there, just so they don't rust away over time. I've got a few holes in the floor I've got to fix. I'm going to put another floor on, so I'll seal them up, fix that up, put some nice insulation there. Certainly a bit of rust there which I've cleaned up and sprayed. I've put some rust inhibitor around these edges. I know that looks messy, but once that's covered up you won't even see it, so that's all good. Now my next part is insulation, obviously, and air venting and that sort of stuff. So I've got myself a Max fan, which is a pretty flash little air vent, which goes on the roof, and here's the brace for it. Now I've marked the centre of it, where it's going to slide, and I've measured that and lined that up with this centre rib which runs down the length of the bus. So I've lined that centre up on both sides, marked my gaps. I'm doing this from the inside out, only purely because the roof's quite flimsy and I can't really stand on it or work from up there, so it's all going to be done from down here. So drill some holes in the corners so my cutting blade knows when to stop as opposed to me, and we'll cut this hole out. That'll get rid of this broken rib. I'll have some left over, obviously. I've got some timber which I'm going to got some timber which I'm going to brace, you know, from this major structural beam, I guess, that's going to run all the way along to the next one and create a bit of a square to drill into, and that'll make that all nice and solid. So I'll set the camera up, we'll cut that hole out, we'll make sure our little lip fits, then we can seal it all up and put the air vent on, which will be very cool. So stand by. Well, I ran out of battery power, so I kept working and didn't even realise the camera was off. But here's the end product. That's the inside of it. You can see I put a timber brace right around, and that's actually screwed the vent to the timber with the ceiling, the metal ceiling in between, with silicone all around. So that's sealed that. It's also nice and strong, nice and solid now. It's a 10-speed fan. It's got a remote control, thermostat controlled, so it's a pretty good one. It's one of those big fans, not one of the little small ones that you see. Decided to get the best because this is pretty hot bus. I'm not going to have 240 volt air conditioning, so I've got to do my best to insulate it, use the car's air conditioning, get some good air through it, and I'm going to use Thermobond on the roof, which is that reflective paint. I'll show you what it looks like on top. So that's it there, with the vent open. That's the lip that I had to fit into the ceiling hole, and I've also used butyl tape and Sikaflex around the whole thing to double seal it again. And also with the Thermobond, it's waterproof, so that'll be sealed 2 more times. Sikaflex over the screws is what they recommended, and then this bit here just slides into the gap, and then it's just 4 screws, so it's self-contained. Pretty easy install actually. Cut a hole, make sure that was right, put the first lip in, seal that up, make sure it's braced with some timber, and then drop the air vent in and screw it on. Quite simple. So yeah, this thing goes up and down. as required. It can be done manually, it can be done with a remote control, or you can set a thermostat. So once it reaches a certain temperature, it'll just automatically start the fan and lift it up and get rid of it. Once the temperature gets right, it'll stop and close, which is pretty cool. Bit of work to do on the roof before I put the thermo shield on. Clean it up, gurney it, fix up any bits and pieces that need to be fixed up before I seal it. And that's my next task, is to put the thermo bond on. I'll show you what that looks like. So there's the thermo shield that I'm putting on the roof now that I've got the vent on. So I've got 2 coats here and a glaze that goes on after it. This apparently reduces the temperature by 45% and it reduces cooling costs by 40%. It's apparently what they use on the NASA ships. I doubt that very much, but anyway, it's apparently meant to be very good for deflecting heat. It's going to be good once I put them on, because then the roof is done. I can insulate the ceiling and I can actually start putting the ceiling on. I'm not putting lights through the center, it's just going to be plain. So my lights are going to be on the side reflecting upward, which will be pretty cool once it's done. So that's what's going on next, but at the moment we've got a heat wave, so I'm not going to put it on until that cools down a little bit. So got the vent on, this is next, then I can start getting into the inside insulation and carrying on in there. So stay tuned, lots more to come.